Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, a short verse. The other day upon the stair, I saw a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish that man would go away. Well, that man may have been captured on a home video. Over to the fearless Robin Ince for some ghost busting. What you got, Robin?
Yes, I was prepared to tackle the ghost. I went up to Solihull with a group of paranormal investigators to find out if a 12-year-old boy really had seen some peculiar spectre. This is what happened. This is Congleton, and this is the head of the UPIA. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Robin. Nice to see you. Come in.
So, Dave, what does the UPIA do?
The Unknown Phenomena Investigation Association look into claims of paranormal, cryptological, ufological and other mysterious matters.
So how many of the cases that you've been involved with have you come up with a rational explanation for?
A high proportion, usually about 80%.
Dave, what's the point in doing all this?
It's interesting, it's intriguing, and it's trying to find out the information that many and many other people are trying to find out, but in simply the wrong manner.
Right, well, I'm going to put you to the test. There's a 12-year-old boy in Solihull who says that he's filmed a ghost on his camera.
Oh my god.
So let's get the rest of the UPIA and find out the truth. Now, are you all... Hello, Tonya. Hello, Robin. And this is the UPIA.
Oh, lovely.
So if we come in?
Yeah.
Lovely. Let's find out, first of all, what are they investigating? What happened this night?
Right, I was on the phone downstairs and Reese was upstairs.
Filming with my camera, messing about, trying to be Mr. Bean.
Hello, I'm Mr. Bean, and this is my home.
And I turned round with the camera and seen this black figure go by.
Oh my god.
Right, it's time for the big screen presentation of what was witnessed in this house. Run out popcorn again. There's the peanuts. Lights out. Let's have a look. We've had the screening. Now, the interrogation.
Do either of the children have imaginary friends?
No.
Was there any weird smells?
Right, see you later then. Right, well, I've sent them off for a slap-up meal, and now the UPI stakeout begins properly. What are you doing at the moment? What's going on?
Well, at the moment, Robin, we've got a variety of equipment set out. We've got thermometers to see if there's any temperature fluctuation.
What would temperature fluctuation mean?
It's claimed in paranormal circumstances that people report temperature drops.
61 inches.
Do you think it'd be easier to see if it's in the dark? Would that work better at all?
Well, no, not really.
So you've had a huge amount of equipment.
It's Thursday, it's 8 o'clock, and it's the Big Detecting Show with me, Dave Sadler, and him, Mr. Adrian Dave. I got it right! Got the direction right! And the best thing that Luke missed out about that video that he was playing at the start was me and Steve at the end telling him it was bullshit. But there you go. That's another matter entirely.
I love that bit. Will it be any better in the dark? No, not really. Just like, what's he think? Turning the lights out.
Robin Ince, he's a well-known comedian and this, that, and the other, and really nice bloke. But he was trying to take the piddle a lot, and he didn't. In the end, they showed in fact, let's bring Steve in. Tonight's guest, Steve Mera, good friend of mine from way back. That was actually 2008, which is why we both look younger. But Steve, that we found out was absolute claptrap, didn't we?
That was some time. That was a blast from the past. That really was. Remember it well. And I never forget actually seeing that very piece of footage on a television show called Fact or Faked. And there was a guy in it called Ben Hansen. He was an ex-FBI guy, and he said, looking at the video, it was the best piece of paranormal evidence he'd ever clamped his eyes on. And I thought, well, that's probably why he's ex-FBI.
and we both actually contacted them and him directly to say, yeah, you're talking out your bum. But
Good
yes, that was basically a very old mobile phone with somebody who's drew a picture on a CD case and dragged it in front, so we actually found the CD case.
Really?
Yeah, I think the biggest giveaway was that in the corners you could see these counter flares of bright light, which was from the light behind him on the ceiling. And I thought, well, there has to be something in front of the camera to bounce the light off it into his lens. And that was kind of the start of it. But I don't think they were too pleased with our rational explanation. Yeah.
Well, they did make a lot of money, and from the Richard and Judy show, The Sun, and from America as well. So they made a nice buck and got some food. Anyway, yeah. Steve, we're jumping ahead of there. introduce yourself for the people who don't know you and don't know of your work.
Okay, my name's Steve Mera. I am an author, an international lecturer. I'm involved in the subjects of anything unusual we might refer to as profound, paranormal, ufological, cryptids, that sort of thing. A number of 3 think tanks, and I am the CEO of Phenomena magazine, which is the largest e-zine of its kind in the world. I think we're on 1.8 million subscribers, 12 countries and 4 languages. Amongst some other things, many things. I'm the head tutor of the UITC Investigators Training course, which is worldwide, which teaches people how to investigate these different types of phenomena. I'm a host of a number of television shows and radio. I pretty much and also, I'm also the CEO of Awakenings Expo, which is based in Manchester every year, except for last year because of the unfortunate lockdowns. And also associated with working in the entertainment industry we have our own cruises, specialized cruises and resort theme parks. So there's a load more, but I'm not just going to keep going on.
and I was the Phenomena magazine. I was the former sub-editor of that up until issue 32 from the start. And also, Steve, I still have it, and it's still next to me. The BITC.
Oh, the original BITC.
The original. I mean, name's on the front for my assistance in the compiling and some of the information in it as well.
That's right.
So that's always there, just in case. You never know. I have to remind myself of things sometimes. So we go back to 1998 when we first started working together, when I became a member of MAPIT. Thereafter, the UPIA was formed, which was my organisation, which was more or less a branch of MAPIT. But you were also working alongside ourselves at the UPIA. And we've been all over the place, haven't we? We've been we've lectured on the circuit together. We've been all around the country doing peculiar things, hunting for wild animals and looking for balls of light. We've done everything. But tonight we're going to concentrate, because it's the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine. We're not going to look at the paranormal. We might come back to that like we did last year around Halloween. But for now, we're going to look at some of the things which obviously people can relate to in relationship to the magazine and the show itself. So first and foremost, Steve, and this is Luke who's asked me to discuss this with you. There's a guy we're hoping to have on the show in the future called Frank Kimbler, who alleges to have found certain materials where the Roswell crash took place. He's a metal detectorist as well as a geologist, and he's been doing a lot of work over there for a long period of time. Do you know of anything not dissimilar? And I'm talking because obviously, primarily the show says it, the Big Detecting Show, where you've come across people actually using metal detecting equipment to study in areas of interest from, I don't know, the UFOs and ancient archaeology and such like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the most common things that are discussed within ufology nowadays, not so much back when we started, is the metamaterials, the UFO metamaterials. These are little parts of UFOs which have been found, some of which have been discovered through metal detecting processes. Though that they do pick up certain traces of elements of metals, aluminum is in there, but there's a number of other metals and chemicals in there which can trigger a response. That people have been finding them, and they have gone under analysis, and some of them, a minority of them, are profound. They're what we refer to is the metamaterials. Isotopic levels in them differ from the isotopic range of materials that we normally find. How can I describe that? For instance, if we were to dig up bismuth and do an isotopic range level on this, it will show a certain figure which identifies it as being earthly origin. You might dig up something which has got bismuth in it in these situations, and when analysed, the isotopic level has a 4% differential. That means that, it's the same material, but it comes from somewhere else, or it's been processed that way. And what's happening through the process, the isotopic level changes through the process. And that's what makes it very interesting. So people have been utilizing metal detecting gear for finding these things. A number of things under the water as well, is the same process. However, when we talk about Roswell, it's not the first time I've heard people, saying that they've managed to find small particles of metal out there in the desert. The problem is it's a vast area, and pinpointing the exact location is very difficult. You have to go back in time to the original people of that day and kind of get some idea of where this incident actually happened. Because you go out there, like, for instance, to Matt Brazel's farmland, and it's vast, and you could be 60 foot away and not find nothing, so it's a matter of being at that right location. But a lot of people have been out there over time, and some of them have claimed to have picked up some unusual pieces of metal, but they're usually around about a foot, 6 inches to a foot underneath. You got to understand, you get a lot of wind out there, and dust storms and things, so things get covered up quite quickly, as you can imagine. And I've even seen people selling bags of Roswell dirt, believe it or not, on the internet. It's surprising what people do. But yeah, I have heard of this, and but what the unfortunate thing is, I don't ever see it really go forward from that, as in, what was this piece of metal? Was it something unusual, or because there have been aircraft crashes, and lots of things, because there's been times when people thought it's something unusual. Turns out it was actually a normal piece of aircraft, bits when they've had a crash sometimes, because you talk about areas where, test ranges are and places like that, you're going to find pieces of metal. But out there in the middle of the desert, I know some people went out there metal detecting, they picked up cans and the rings off cans and things like that, because people have been out there. Hundreds of people have been out there since the days of learning about Roswell, and they drop things, and of course those things get picked up. But occasionally I do hear about people getting things, but I don't tend to hear where it goes then. What's the situation? Was it something unusual or not? It tends to die very quickly at that stage.
One thing I did point out at the start there was the fact that Roswell, for those of you who don't know, was actually an alleged UFO crash back in 1947. So that's what we're talking about currently. Obviously, we'll be moving on an instant. We thought we'd start everybody out a little bit easy, talking about metal detecting, but then Steve started throwing isotopes at me, and I think I'm befuddled now. One of the questions from Philip Wills. Philip Wills, I've got your email. I'm sorry I haven't responded. I've been a little bit busy of late. Is it not just affected by creation or process date like carbon 12 and 14?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I know exactly what this guy's talking about. No, it isn't. I mean, what we do is when we're actually looking at these materials, okay, we have to break them down. So when they go through analysis, we break this down. We break it down into what it might consist of: silver, magnesium, bismuth, and other unusual items that you might find. Yes, they exist on Earth. We have never found something where we can say that item is not on Earth. Everything has been found so far that has a track to Earth. In other words, if you go to the moon, for an example, and you pick up a rock which has got a bit of metal in it from a meteor, and we analyze that metal in it might be, it's found on Earth, but the degrees of isotopes in it would vary because it comes from somewhere else. This is how we can recognize, materials which have come from Mars, for an example. They have a different isotopic levels within them. But everything you'll find likely on Mars and on the moon, those things exist within the rocks on Earth. But it's only the isotopic levels which really gives us a key as to identifying that it's extraterrestrial as opposed to terrestrial. Those things can't accidentally change. It's a process. It's a natural process that happens on other worlds. The isotopic levels range differently through the process of manufacture, say, natural geological finds.
I think if I'm right in saying, Steve, one of the ways that can be best described for people with no knowledge of things like this, like myself, is that for a lot of us watch Curse of Oak Island, and a lot of the time they are taking materials to be tested and such like. And there's a database of resources where materials can be broken down to the isotopes, and you can actually find specifically what part of the world, more or less to the meter, or not so much to the meter, more or less to the specific area where that material was actually forged or created. You can find out that. So that's not dissimilar, but obviously things are missing from our databases because they don't exist.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you can regionalize exactly where some of these these items would have maybe originated from. I mean, when thousands and thousands of years ago, when there were huge volcanic eruptions, rocks and things which held metals within them was burst up by huge volcanoes, and they travelled literally quarter way around the world, and people have found them. But when you start to analyze them, you can pinpoint where the location came from. So these things traveled up so high into the atmosphere, literally traveled quarter of the globe. These giant volcanoes that erupted thousands of years ago. So we can regionalize as to where these things come from. But what we do is that when we start to look at items which have an unusual isotopic range, we have to question, well, how does that occur? And that's when it starts getting interesting, because sometimes there's a story connected to it where I was looking around a particular site where there have been rumors of a strange object that might have come down, or some type of unusual incident taking place. And that lends hand to the possibility of that, is this item from somewhere else, is the question. But we do have this, there is evidence of that now. We have about 14 pieces of metal materials now which have been analysed, and some of them react to certain frequencies as well. It's quite interesting what actually happens to them as well. And they are quite profound. We're not saying we're not saying that they're from another planet. But what we're saying is that we've never found and never have done the same isotopic range levels in these things anywhere else. It's rather through two processes. The isotopic level range in these items is because they come from somewhere else, or through the manufacture of this metal, it changes the isotopic range. But as far as I'm aware, and most other scientists, we have not got to the stage of 3D printing metal, because under the microscope, these are 3D printed metals to the micron, which are different levels and layers of different types of metals. And when you put these together, they become highly, it was referred to as metamaterials. And when you put this cocktail together, they act unusual.
Curse of technology again. Adrian,
he's had a meteorite land on him.
Interestingly, meteorites in the news over the past week. One landed over at Gloucester, we discussed last week, but it's now been found and handed over to the museums, given to them. He's back. He's back. That's one of the curses of the show, Steve. We always have it.
I'm used to it,
Adrian, Roswell. I don't know if you've got much knowledge of it, but what do you think actually transpired there?
Well, I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, so it's probably the same now on the internet, but it doesn't appear much. But when I was younger, Tales of the Unexplained, a bi-monthly magazine came out and stuff like that, and everyone at school, it was space shuttle. It was all what we were interested in. And I read up on Roswell a lot, and so did my dad when he was alive. And it was something we were really interested in. And there's so much stuff out there. But me personally, being a conspiracy, thinking about this, I think there was a crash, but I think, I won't mention any names, it was made to look false by certain people to cover the real thing. And I think it was some type of flying device that needed to be kept top secret. That's what I think.
Which I think a lot of, and also I think a lot of people in the chat room will be of a similar age group to us, and have also, a lot 30. Of us were raised, 32, 33. have been raised in that time frame, and they've been privy to the Arthur C. Clarke mysteries, the tales of the unexplained, etc., etc., and sadly in later life, most haunted, which we won't mention who actually developed and designed that program, will we, Steve?
No, we won't.
Or for instance, also for the great unexplained debate, we won't speak about who actually created them programs. That's a tale for a different night. So, Steve, what do you believe actually happened at Roswell?
I believe a craft did come down. I think it was misidentified straight away. And I think that because there had been no protocols at that in 1947 how to deal with things, and soldiers and officers didn't know really anything better, that there was a premature announcement that a crashed saucer came down. But we're dealing in 1947, and time back then was different. People thought differently and acted differently, and very much so about the old invasion from the Martians and all that sort of thing, was quite there. And I think there was a premature announcement going out about that, and then it was a quick recovery. In other words, it was, oh, well, we shouldn't have done that. That's not protocol. Let's backtrack now, because they've probably never had a situation like that before, when soldiers come across things and then it just gets out. You just go, person walks past by the incident, and they just a quick chit chat. Oh, a flying saucer came down. Before you know it, the press had picked up on it, and the radio got it, and of course, someone would have definitely had their knuckles wrapped for that. But from the research I know, it wasn't even a saucer. It was more of a delta type shaped object that came down. And yes, there would have been secrecy. And yes, in 1947. There was a lot of secret experiments going on regarding top secret aircraft and the manufacture of them, and that had been going on. I mean, you got to take in consideration, they took all the scientists back from the Second World War to work with NASA, because they were experts, and some of the technology that they were working on in Germany was so advanced. The biggest threat, and why America got involved, as far as I'm concerned, wasn't just the fact that let's go and save us the Brits, because we were getting our asses kicked by the Germans, which is true, we were, because they had some bloody good technology. The fact is that they could have had air supremacy, and if the German army had air supremacy, the war would have been over. Because if you have air supremacy, you win the war. It's as simple as that. So there was a big effort on the part of the United States to get in there and retrieve the technology, retrieve the scientists, and at the same time help us out. So it's kind of worked out for them, because it's led them to a point of being the number one country on this planet that seems to be mostly involved in the advancements of technology since them days. So it's kind of gone hand in hand.
Personally, I would say exactly the same. Experimental aircraft that had come down and people have covered it up. That's my personal perspective. What I'm going to do, Steve, in a moment, I'm going to find out where I've lost everything. Where is it? Show reels, that's the one. I'm going to briefly put a video up for a couple of minutes. We throw these in every now and again, just to give us all a breather. So the first one tonight, it's a guy called Stephen Elliott, who recently discovered a sovereign, and not very far away, he posted this on YouTube. He found another one. So Luke, if you wouldn't mind, let's play the video.
All right, guys, so I haven't sent you a live video in a while. I've been working my arse off and searching for midtones, deep midtones. Again, I've got a bag full of pull tabs. I'm about 30 meters away from where I found that sovereign, and it's happened again, guys. Please don't hate me. I don't know if it's a full or a half. Let's pull it out the hole, guys. Check it out. Looks like a full. Looks like a Vicky, and it's an 1800s coin. It's my first 1800 coin, and it's a gold sovereign, guys. Can you believe it? I'm gonna clean it off for you guys. It's a full gold sovereign. Holy shit, guys. Can you believe it? So cool.
Thanks to Stephen for letting us play that video this week. Marvellous. There you go, Steve. That's the how cool metal detecting could be, finding gold sovereigns. The reason I was hovering over with the arrow as well, I believe there's a second coin in the hole, and he was obviously instantly directed at the gold sovereign. He says there wasn't, but pareidolia. We know all about pareidolia, and it looks like a bit of pareidolia in the soil. That's basically where you see something that looks like something else, and you're sure it's something else, but it's not really. It's your mind and visual malarkey and such like. So he says there wasn't a second coin in the hole, but I was like, there is. There's another one. There's another one. So there you go.
Isn't it? Amazing.
Oh, mate. Honestly, some of the things that at the end of the show, when we finish at the end of the show, the readers finds there's some absolutely stunning Roman things popped up this past week. Adrian, I've sent you the video earlier for you to and it's some great things, aren't there?
I thought you put my gold find in there on Saturday.
No. Adrian found a gold coin which I used to advertise and didn't read is what he wrote. It was actually a gold foil from a chocolate coin.
About a mile from the nearest road, middle of nowhere. Who the hell's eating? Well, it's green waste, isn't it? But got very excited when that come up on the routers.
Oh.
And you know, I've seen that about 3 times this week in other areas as well. Madly.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things a lot of people are mentioning in the thing, and again, this is bringing people round to the idea of the paranormal and such like lately, is that Disney Channel have recently added stars to it, and it's got the entire first 8 seasons of the X-Files on there. So I, as well as Tony K. Wood, he's on season 6. I'm on 14 episodes through the first one, but some great memories of the X-Files. What a show that was.
It was, yeah. Chris Carter,
yeah. And it brought a lot of people into looking into the knowledge of it, much like Time Team brought so many people into archaeology interests. It done exactly the same. It didn't it? The amount of ufologists that popped up overnight were fantastic.
It was really good. Yeah, it's a sign of the times, and there's nothing else that really could compete with it. It's had its day, and obviously, but it did bring people's attention to the conspiratorial side of the subject, and that exists.
Seeing the cars that they drive and the laptops that they're using was.
Gillian Anderson hasn't aged, I don't think. If you look at her today,
I think she's like a bottle of wine. She's kind of got better as time's gone on. I think
she does look a bit fresh faced on that, but it's Gillian. So.
Well, he had the X-Files were brought to Manchester. He had the X-Files convention in Manchester many years ago, which was actually held here, and it was very well. Yeah, there was a lot of people attended.
Mm-hmm. But both me and you have organised several conferences ourselves in the past, haven't we, as well?
Yeah, we've done a fair few, and of course we had the greatest one, I say, was at Cheshire Oaks, and turned out that we had it on the day he had the petrol strike.
So nobody come because they had no petrol.
Typical.
Got a question from Andy Sampson. Do you think they are being softened up for a big revelation soon? And the thoughts on Dr. Stephen Greer?
No, Dr. Stephen Greer. Well, yeah, I'm very well aware of Stephen Greer's work. It's a really difficult, to get into all that. It's quite a long topic, but he works with this program, CSETI, and he brings 6 meditators, a team of them, save an example out to a certain location. We sit in a circle and they meditate, and then phenomena occasionally turns up in the sky, which is really a form of conjuring. It's a conjuring of the phenomena. It's done exactly the same way in mediumship circles. no different than having 5 or 6 mediums sat around a table and phenomena being experienced. The process of doing which is very much considered a close connection between us, ourselves, and the phenomena, this conscious connection a lot of people are talking about. It can be demonstrative going back hundreds, if not thousands of years. We also have to take into consideration that first time aliens were ever seen was nothing to do with ufology. It's actually around the mediumship circles. You know, we talk about Aleister Crowley in 1918 and his manifestation of a large-edged being, who claimed that he was interdimensional, which he experienced and scared him apparently. But then we have other incidents where coming through in mediumship circles of strange beings claiming to be extraterrestrial and interdimensional. So I think there's a divide between conjured phenomena, phenomena that reacts to us consciously and appears, to physical profound craft that fly the skies. There's a slight difference. And in regards to revelations, well, I think at some point, somewhere, we're going to get there. But I wouldn't hold out for it to all be great, because there's a lot of things that are happening in ufology that people won't talk about, because the government want you to stare up in the skies and think the phenomena is only coming from up there, when sometimes it's right in front of our noses. And I think, and also in some cases, is that there's a lot of it which is ours, a lot of technology is ours. And people say, oh no, there's no way we've got that technology. Well, I'm going to beg to differ on that one. If you take, for instance, if a saucer of unknown origin did land in Roswell in 1947, with the amount of people worldwide, the most cleverest people on this planet, over 70 odd years, could they not back engineer something if you had unlimited funds? I'd say yes, they could. Especially when you talk about an aircraft carrier and how fast they're built. There's one of them can get structured in 2 years, sometimes less than that, these aircraft carriers. So, it's nothing would surprise me anymore in regarding technology. But I think there's some changes happening, absolutely. But I don't know if they're all going to be positive. That's the only thing.
Absolutely, Steve. Totally agree. And the amount of things going on with COVID and around COVID and around the world again adds to that. Steve, I'm gonna go over to now. Which one of you's got the sound on? Bum bum bum. I can hear myself talking. Oh well.
Is it mine?
Right. We're gonna share the screen now, and we're gonna look at some images and talk to Steve about one of the projects that he's currently involved in that's been in the news of late. On there, on there, on there, and on there. Come on now, load up. Stop being daft. There we are. There we are. So, now a lot of people may or may not know about things that are occurring in Blackpool at the moment. It's been in the national news. It's been all over the internet. And Steve is involved. Now, Steve, what is your primary involvement in what's going on in Blackpool? And can you describe exactly what it's all about?
Yeah, I can tell you my primary involvement. I own a number of companies. One is Zohar Global Group, Zohar Entertainment Group, and a couple of others. And it's about entertainment, subject-related entertainment. Now, as you remember, Dave, back in 2016, we hired the BAFTA in London, where they had the BAFTA event, and we celebrated Eric von Daniken's 50th anniversary of Chariots of the Gods, his very first book, which changed the way people thought, all around the world. 73 million of these books have been sold. 73 million in almost every single language. It's incredible. And he's still going strong, Eric. I work with him on a regular basis. So, and we celebrated his 50th anniversary, and because we wanted to bring something forward to the community, something of some form of entertainment, subject related, but also educational for the younger generation. Because what I've seen over the last 20, 30 years is that, who's going to be replacing the likes of me and other people, researchers that are out there doing this and living that life, researching and investigating, who are we going to be replaced by? Because most of the young guns now want to sit in front of PS4s and PS5s, so, and fair enough, times have changed, but is there anything in it for, in later life within this subject? Are we still going to have research and investigators, people who are going to question, about the ancient sites and how were they built? Why were they built? Why specifically, where were they built? What secret knowledge did our ancient ancestors have? Now, most people will know that we can go and dig up bones, and we can find all sorts of things, and we have done. We're finding humans that we didn't think existed. The Denisovans was one of them. Some of them are giants. Some of them had 2 rows of teeth. And it has been kept quiet a lot over the years by the Smithsonian Institute. In fact, they were dumping them out at sea at one point because they just didn't want people ever to find these things. But then one day somebody thought, yeah, we better start saving some. But there was a massive, massive conspiracy about that. They didn't want people to connect the dots, because once you start to connect the dots, you quickly realize that there has been thousands of different types of humans on this planet which have somehow been altered. They're changed. It's like we've been in the petri dish and humans have been experimented on, and there's been different factions and races of different strange types of humans, some of which up to 10, 11, 15 foot tall. We've got the fossil record to prove it now. And the thing is that is all very hushed up, but people do find these on digs all around the world, and it's kept very quiet. Now, the thing is that who's going to question all that? Who's going to start digging for the truth still and try and get information out? The younger generation are going to need to, because I'm not going to be around forever, and neither is Eric and anybody else. The idea is how do we keep that going? Is to try and educate the younger generation in an entertainment fashion. So we decide to plan we're working with Media Invest Entertainment, which is from Monaco. In 2016, we had this event in BAFTA, and Eric came along, 50th anniversary. And if you remember rightly, the magazine, your magazine, was a sponsor, was actually listed up on the actual screen, along with probably about 30 others. And since then, we decided to plan a theme resort which will educate the younger generation and continue to question about the wonders of the world, because there are so many things which are unanswered, and there are new things that we're always discovering. The latest thing that we're discovering, just as an example, is that our ancient ancestors knew how to literally melt rock, knew how to make rock into like a compound and mold it, and then reposition it and build with it. And this is what we find at places like Sacsayhuaman in Peru, where when you look at the stone walls, they look like they've been forged, melted and put into place. And this is when you start finding DNA, we start finding bits of hair in the stone, which is improbable if it was real stone. And you have to ask the question, how the hell did it get there? Well, it gets there in the mix, and there's the evidence. And it's not just them. We find these types of stones in Egypt and other places, but not being talked about very often. There are hundreds of things not being talked about very often. So the whole idea is have this resort all built in, where you can go and learn about the ancient sites, the different types of cultures around the world, and it'd be fun. So this is a theme park, and it's referred to as the Chariots of the Gods, or we actually got 2 names. It's the World of Wonders, but it's also Chariots of the Gods. And the whole resort, say for instance the one in Blackpool, which is one of them, is going to contain so many different things which are going to really be interesting, because they're not the normal things you come across. That image that you're actually showing there was the flying theatre. You sit in a huge seated system that moves around, and it's everything around you is completely 360. So it looks like you actually are flying. And there's special machines that generate mist and air and cloud and all sorts of things. And you will not, I can tell you from knowing this, you will not tell the difference You will not feel the difference. You'll think that you're 1,000 foot up in the air, traveling over these sites, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And now there isn't many of these manufactured. There's only a couple of them on the planet. So, we're bringing in the newest technology that we can find and implement it. Of course, we've got Atlantis there, and we'll have a themed hotel. Each and every single floor. There's a couple of hotels. What the first one has a theme of each floor represent Inca or Aztec and Egyptian. And if you're on them, it looks like you're in tombs. You're inside the pyramid, when it is in fact a one complete level of a hotel, dedicated to Egyptian. But then you've got the Space Hotel as well. The Space Hotel is like, when you go in there, everything is robots and there's everything is science fiction. And when you look out the windows, you see you're orbiting Earth, and you will feel like you're orbiting Earth. You won't be able to tell the difference. It looks like you're orbiting Earth. And absolutely everything is in there. It's like you step into another world. And that's what we want. We want people to feel, what it is like. If you can't go to see the sites, let's bring them to you. And there's a lot of special 3D scanning that's been involved. We're going to have one of the highest tech 3D virtual realities that's ever been created, where you completely, the whole suit, your hands, everything will interact with that environment, and you go on missions and different things. So, and then of course you've got the other bits of attractions, the things that kids can do. There's a robot diner, for an example, and this is all the first one is going to be in Blackpool, and we should have probably laid first brick around probably about October, but because we've been put back because of the COVID, we had to wait, because people were furloughed and stuff. But that's going ahead, and construction will be taking place. And it's about regeneration of Blackpool as well, because, as most people know, it's been a holiday resort for many years, but it really did need some regeneration, so... but there's going to be so many things, and you can see in some of the images I've provided that there's, you can see the actual footprint of where we're actually going to be going in Blackpool. But that's hopefully one of many.
Fantastic. Now, how many years has this actually been in planning?
Since 2016. When we came to you and said, "Do you want to be the sponsor?" Come on board. Yeah. 2016 initiated it. The amount of work, because let me just tell you, this is a 360 franchise. So, along with the theme park of Chariots of the Gods theme park, you're going to have Chariots of the Gods TV show, Chariots of the Gods movie, Chariots of the Gods game, and it's just there's all sorts of things. It's a 360 franchise, and it's about quickly educating the society about these things and making it enjoyable as well at the same time. So it was 2016 we started, and of course there's a lot of the biggest architects in the world. I mean, some of these architects, they build the stuff in like New York and Walt Disney, that sort of thing. So we got the absolutely top architects working on that. Dealing with all those companies over this time has been painstaking. So especially for Media Invest Entertainment, which is Norbert, one of our partners that works with us. And there's a lot of work that's been involved. And it's not just that, because you also got to take into consideration when you're going to take so many people into a resort in Blackpool, you've got to be able to put them somewhere. They need to park. So we have to build car parks, and you have to change the road layouts, and you have to change the layout of, the trafficking into Blackpool as well as the train. So there's lots of things associated with that.
Steve, out of interest, is it undercover, or is it all virtual, or is it what is it?
Well, when you go into this resort, it's a self-contained resort. So, in other words, if you don't want to leave there and go to Blackpool Pleasure Beach, it's up to you. You don't have to. You've got everything there you will need, including shops and stores and everything. It's a step out of reality into another reality, in a sense of speaking. The hotel ourselves, well, the main hotel, Space Hotel, we tried to get it to, they wouldn't allow us to go anything higher than Blackpool Tower, so we're just underneath its size. So, but you don't need to. Everything will be self-contained on there, and it's a step out of reality to another world, in a sense of speaking.
Right. So is it undercover? The only reason I ask, with our British weather,
It's all inside. It's all inside.
It's all inside, right?
It's all inside, but there will be sections of it that if the weather is okay, we can very quickly open up an outside events as well, very easily.
And obviously, COVID has caused a few issues, no doubt. When do you reckon roughly this could be open?
First saying the first bit was supposed to be down in October. We couldn't do because of the furloughing. Because what's probably something on the grounds of what would happen is the mayor would come, the press would come, there'd be the first brick goes down, the ribbon gets cut, that sort of kind of thing.
Yeah.
It deserves nothing less. It absolutely deserves nothing less. This place, it's 300 million. We're spending 300 million on this, and it's everything's signed and done. So it's an absolute certainty it's going forward. It's just a matter of when will that first brick happen. And then the problem is that contractors are held off because of furloughing. And they might be waiting on another. They might say, right, okay, we're ready to go to business. But the other guys in another company say, well, we're furloughed yet, we've got to wait. So the problem is you've got these different staggers of different companies doing different things. And what they need to all come together at the same time. And it's only because of the situation of furloughing is that we are a little bit behind. Hopefully, this summer, we will have the first construction starting. Yeah, because we're just ready to go. We're ready. We've been ready for a while. We're ready to go. But it's all down to this furloughing business. And once we get a little bit of release from these lockdowns, then we will start seeing some movement. And once that starts, it'll be everywhere. I guarantee you guys, it's going to be all over the press. When this actually, really, the first brick goes down, in a sense of speaking.
Do you know what the worst thing is about this, Steve? For me personally, I'm going to have to therefore visit Blackpool, and I can't stand the place.
Well, you know what? What's good about it is it's going to be it's a place where you can get away from. You won't even think you're there in Blackpool, to be honest with you.
And I take it there's going to be additional redevelopment going on in Blackpool, because at the end of the day, it's not the nicest of places. It's been left to rot a little bit over the past 20 years. I take it there's going to be more redevelopment going on throughout.
There is. It's going to be a chain reaction. I mean, the council, for an example, I think it was 2 months ago or last month, the council came forward with 30 million just for the regeneration program of roads and certain buildings, regenerating that, because they got to wipe it clean and then kind of change it. And what will happen is it will change. The economy will boost. We're going to be giving out we're going to be providing thousands of jobs. There's a start, so economy-wise, it's great. But we're going to be having international trafficking coming from all the countries coming to the resort. It's going to put Blackpool on the map, but it's got to be a Blackpool that looks okay and feels okay. So there's regeneration programs taking place now to do that. To bring up surrounding areas. It's also going to be great for shops and things like that, and even other hotels, because, to be honest, they were struggling. Bed and breakfasts were struggling. And in today's society, especially now with the furloughing, it's on the knees basically. And sometimes, they just wanted to give up. Some of them did. Some of them we've helped. Some of them just are putting aside and going. Where the resort's going to go. And it's about looking at the future and where Blackpool's going to be in 10, 20, 30 years' time, So this is a place where we decided to have this resort. And it's going to be interesting. There's lots there which there's lots I can't talk about because there's certain NDAs still in operation. But from what we've actually, from the public releases of information coming out from who we're working with, it's Blackpool Central Council. There's a lot more to come forward yet. Yeah. A lot more surprises to come forward, which this resort will have.
Well, that's one thing. I think we'll be able to at least do a live show from the venue in the future.
Absolutely, yes. It's going to have its own convention place there for conferences. It's a place where it can be utilised as well through around the year. So we'll have in actually our own convention centre built. It's a 2-story convention centre where it's going to be housing on a yearly basis, or maybe even 4 times a year, the Chariots of the Gods convention, which is all about the subject. It's in a bit like a UFO convention, but it covers things. It also covers things for the kids as well, and is interaction stuff. Because as you know, with Awakenings, what I own, based in Manchester, we had full size.
We were actually both at the first conference in Rochdale together.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and that Awakening Expo itself, we had full size Star Wars things built. Proper full scale X-wings and TIE fighters, and we had the Alien Walker. We had Transformers. We had all sorts of different things because our events wanted to introduce kids into it,
Yeah.
and we took it from there. We took it from Awakenings Expo, which we're now the largest in Europe, to Chariots of the Gods. So it's kind of going to transition over.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, what we'll do now, Steve, we'll have a brief video, and then we'll visit Malta for a period of time before tonight's Diggers Dip draw, which is at 9:15. So, Luke, I have the video lined up. Proper medieval horse riding. Proper medieval horse riding. Luke, you can take it off now. There it is. So I mentioned Malta, and we're moving on more or less. We've been talking Blackpool is more or less a lot to do with ancient origins and archaeology and such like. But one of the things that yourself, obviously traveling the world, looking at certain things, we're going to visit Peru after the break for a fascinating story. But in respects of now, we're going to Malta. So, Steve, Malta, a place I'd love to go to, but I didn't realise the amount of things that were actually there of consequence, archaeological and origin-wise. Steve's on mute. Steve's on mute.
I didn't put myself on mute. Don't know what happened there. Yeah, Malta's a very interesting place, and I'm part of a team, Project Doorway. It's been working now about 5 years, visiting these locations and do specialised tests. And we visited a number of ancient temples. Now, what's interesting about the ancient temples in Malta is that nobody knows who built them, because they're at a time where there was no civilization on Malta. There's no evidence, no archaeological evidence of a civilization on Malta. You won't find it anywhere. And yet, there were these huge temples, gigantic temples. And these are huge stones, which the legends say were created by giants that came to the island and built these temples, but then strangely left. And they didn't live there, but were there obviously for some time and then, vanished. There wasn't no civilization out, so it was interesting. Now, one of the main places we went to was the Hypogeum. The Hypogeum, it's underground, and if you do your homework, you find that it's very weird, because when they discovered the Hypogeum, it took a long time because they were continuing these digs and finding more and more areas of the Hypogeum underground, and it was covered in skeletons, and all the skulls were elongated. Now, there has a bit of a dark history as well, because there's been some strange disappearances in the Hypogeum tunnels. where it was rumoured that a teacher and some students got lost, and they were never found. But even today, people report hearing children, talking or crying out, but they couldn't feasibly do so. If they did get lost in these tunnels, then, they wouldn't be alive now. It happened so many years ago. So it's interesting. But what's most fascinating about the place is that it's a resonant chamber. It is designed as a resonant chamber. There's a central point to the hypogeum where it resonates at a certain frequency under an om. Om is, it's a traditional vocal sounds. And these places, which a lot of them are, resonant chambers, they're designed to generate certain frequencies that affect the brain. And by affecting the brain with certain frequencies, it generates certain physiological conditions. And there are numerous different ones depending on the frequency it's designed to do. So, for instance, there's one that oscillates at a certain frequency that generates healing. And what we found was when generating this sound in the resonant chamber, and an individual is in the center of the chamber at the time, physical wounds on the body will be healed 6 times faster. Fascinating. And just providing these certain set frequencies to doing certain things makes it very interesting. It's like they are purposely built locations for doing different things. And it's a secret knowledge, from our ancient ancestors. How the hell they knew that, we do not know. But like I said earlier, we can always dig up bones and say, well, our ancient ancestors, they hunted these particular animals, they lived there and they did this. But what we can't tell you is how they thought, the spiritual, the consciousness, their capabilities. We can't tell you that from bones. Maybe our ancient ancestors are a lot more than we are currently now. And these different sites around Malta, we went there and there was some diving done, there was some science stuff under the water, and we took measurements. Now, what's very interesting is that these locations, ancient sites, like many others, have a doorway to another reality, you might say, a spiritual realm. And how they get there is a double key system. The double key system is that at equinoxes and solstices, when the sunlight travels down and into them and it hits in the central chambers, they were designed to do so on purpose, because they're only designed to do in 2 locations, and that is at the time of when the sun is rising or the sun is going down. Either case, what happens when the sun does that, it generates a terahertz frequency. That means that because the layers of our atmosphere filter out the infrared, it generates the ultraviolet, comes through, and the terahertz frequency rises. And when the terahertz frequency rises from the sunlight, this is why people like to meditate when the sun's setting or rising, because it gives them some form of difference in spirituality. What happens is that can, at the same time as the frequency of the Om, is that double key system. And individuals, our ancients, which used to ingest unusual monatomic elements, which phase under certain conditions, one of them being terahertz frequency, would have some very profound experiences under those conditions. And that is a secret went right around the planet numerous times by different cultures utilizing exactly the same thing. It would take them to the spirit, or I should say the land of the gods, and they could converse with some type of spirits that give them knowledge and information, and then come back with that knowledge and information. And then a lot of these places were associated to the pharaohs, the kings, the main guys, the big priests, and kept secret, the process of doing so. So what we've been doing is we've been going around conducting certain tests, looking at gravity wells that seemingly appear, differentials in time. We have time differential meters now, which are very expensive, but they're amazing pieces of equipment, and you can measure microseconds differentials taking place in solstice and equinox in these locations, and they're measurable. There is evidence of them. Gravity wells are also measurable and visual. You can find them through visual tests using lasers, where the gravity well affects the light and bends the laser. to a degree, like pulling a bow of a string of a bow, should we say. There is evidence about these, and we're finding new things. So it's about bringing all this new information into currently what we understand ancient sites around the world. So it's been very interesting, going around all these different places. Some of them a little bit
So
scary,
as well as Malta, where else have you been?
Got Bolivia, the southern Spain, France, Denmark, Peru, Lima, North America is Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico. List goes on and on.
Yeah. Before the show, I was actually trying to think of a phrase. I'm actually remembered it now. It's acoustic design. So some of these chambers are made specifically with acoustics in mind, and obviously light, as we've just learned.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, some people used to call it power acoustics because they didn't understand it, but now we know it more. It's not really power acoustics. It's just an area of physics that we just currently weren't aware of, And now we're starting to find the clues. We're starting to think, okay, these particular ancient sites are built in certain locations because they generate certain fields, and those fields were mapped a long time ago. It's known as the Earth grid, and they line up, and they're purposely to do so. And these areas then were places of worship, temples, because you could talk with the gods, you could converse with the gods. And this is when we talk about all these different gods they were conversing with. They all had different names and things, but the same process was for each and every single one. It was utilizing Earth's energies and frequencies that we've just lost contact with.
Steve, I've just noticed something that would make you a fantastic metal detectorist. You carry a toilet roll with you. The amount of times that people have been caught short in the field.
Yeah. So it's always with me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And could you tell me as well, and I'm sure other people will be interested, the thing to your back left that's attached to the wall that looks like a football pattern on it. What is it?
It's a nanolith.
And what does that do?
It's a special light. So when you switch it on, it does different things. It can do autumn, fall, and does all weird things.
Human centric.
Yeah, technology. We always people send us stuff to check out technology. So we.
I remember when you actually had, was it a 72-inch telly, and you were the only person I knew who had one.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's gone now. Yeah, I've still got the same size telly, but it weighs about half less.
That's the metal detectors. I'm just going to give a few parish notices before we go over to Diggers Dips draw as well. The detectable competition that took place on our special on Saturday had 6 winners. Marcin Brzezowski won the Knox 800, Kieran Martin the Knox 600, Stephen Game the Vanquish 540. Notice I said Vanquish. Shall I do it, Adrian? Shall I do it?
Go on, Dave.
James Lemon won the Vanquish 340. And the Profan 20s were won by Colin Alexander and Louise Aitchison. I think that's correct. And for anybody interested, Diggers Dips. No, start again, David. Detectable are actually running the next month's competition, Spring Detectable Raffle, prize draw, which is available on detectable.com. If you go on there, you'll be able to find all the information to purchase tickets, and we will be doing another live special to do the draw with Mark and Karen in April. McGrafter, the spade that Adrian and I have been testing, and Tony Kaywood as well. I actually went out on Sunday metal detecting, and I used it for the first time, and I've told Paul completely had to alter my technique, walking, carrying, digging, because I'm used to a stubby like most other people. But this was, it was light as a feather, isn't it, Adrian? Absolutely stunning.
I think it's as light or lighter than a simplex.
It's absolutely brilliant.
And it it just revolutionises detecting. I'm sure I can detect for longer because I'm not carrying so much weight. I've got a stainless steel spade. But Paul, who designed the McGrafter, it's not often we get good innovative things in our hobby, apart from detectors. But digging tools is a digging tool, and when you've got something as light as that and strong, I mean,
yeah. And I was proper giving it some with it as well because I'm heavy-handed at the best of times.
Yeah,
but I've spoke to him about it. There was a few things. Mine was a prototype, and one of the things I always like my stubby's got 2 zip ties and an old bag band on it to carry over my shoulder. So I've spoke to Paul about a few things, and he's looking at some things in return. But they actually launched their new website, mcgrafter.co.uk, last night. That's megrafta.co.uk. So be sure to get on that. NCMD membership. For those of you who are members of the NCMD, can I point you towards the regions? Now, the regions are actually what people don't realise are available for membership individually as well, not just by the central register. So the likes of the Midlands region, South West, South, Yorkshire. We're going to be putting some information on the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine in the next couple of days, which will point you towards membership application forms. So in effect, you're going to be able to have a little bit more backing locally in your region. So something that you might want to look at. But as I say, we put the Midland region on, the Midland Federation of Metal Detecting Clubs. We put that on last week. Just pop on, you'll find it. And tomorrow, as I say, keep your eye on the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine page or the Big Detecting Show group, and we will be adding them articles with what they're up to now. Well, I'll redo the Midlands one, and I'll also do the South and Yorkshire. I'm waiting for Southwest currently. Detectable have announced their next set of dates. Hopefully, Spring Detectable, which will be taking place in October in Oxfordshire, is on the 12th and the 13th of June. Main Detectable has been confirmed on the 12th and 13th of September in Wiltshire, a brand new site for Detectable. Shite, I nearly said then, but I won't swear. But absolutely things to look forward to in the future. We hope, obviously, the summer, let's call it summer in June, Detectable. We hope that's sorted. We hope that's underway. It gives us something else to look forward to as well. And finally, in the parish notices, LP Nocta. Have a look on the LP website tomorrow from 9 a.m. Because there's some big up-and-coming things that are coming on there. So, Luke, I'm going to share the screen, and we will go over to Digger's Door. Why can't people have easier bloody names?
Digger's Dips. Digger's Dips.
Wanquish. So, Steve, what we do at this point now, as you can see, you've got a countdown. The prizes this week. First prize is the British Buttons book. I said that right. Second prize is a composite cleaning pencil set, courtesy of Graham Dempsey. And in third place, 5 Diggers Dips tokens. Now, Graham Dempsey, he will be providing the second place prize in the coming weeks. So other people can get their hands on a cleaning pencil set, which is absolutely fantastic. For those of you who follow last week's guest, Metal Detecting Emily, she's put a new video on tonight, actually utilising the cleaning pencil set, and it's a damn good video. Well done to her. So, Steve, as you're the guest, pick a number between 1 and 29.
13.
Adrian?
3.
20. I'll go for 24. There's the first one. I should have gone 13 with Steve, really, shouldn't I?
Well,
but Steve's no Barry. Steve's no Barry, is he?
No. I've got the Buttons book. Good book.
I received the one I won the other week, which I'm going to be putting out as a prize. Britain's First Coins, all about the Celtic coins, and it's an exceptional book. And it's number 22. 2 out. And that's Deborah 27B. Congratulations, Deborah. 27B. You've won the British Buttons book.
Buttons.
Steve, pick a number.
11.
Adrian.
3.
18. Everyone plays this, Steve, and it gets quite exciting as well. The build-up it's immense. Oh, it could be me. It could be Steve. I've got to get one right. I always get one right. 14. And that's Dominic Tomczyk. Well done, Dominic. See, I got that right. So he's won the cleaning pencil set, courtesy of the composite cleaning pencil. And Graham Dempsey. Done it right then as well, because I read it. And finally, for 5 Diggers Dips tokens, Steve, number?
Number 8.
Adrian?
13.
And I will go for 20. Oh, it'll be 19 now, won't it? Number 17. And that is Giuseppe. So congratulations, Giuseppe. So Deborah, 27B, has won the British Buttons book. Dominic Tomczyk, the cleaning pencil set, and Giuseppe, the 5 Diggers Dips tokens. Winners of the prizes, you'll be contacted by Diggers Dips via email. If you could respond to them with your details, and your prize will be sorted. Just to let Jamie Williams, last week's spot prize guest, know, it is here. Was done straight away. It's just I've not been in the office till today, so I forgot to post it. So I do apologise. There you go. Right, we'll go straight on, moving on, and we'll go straight to Peru. Now, for those of you who have heard Steve on the past or know of Steve, this is a fascinating tale, and this is all about archaeology and anthropology, and it's exciting. I personally was always excited by it. Now, this first and foremost image is the cover of Phenomena magazine, issue 112, which talks about the biggest hoax of the 21st century. This is Steve, and am I right in saying that's Barry Fitzgerald, Steve?
Yeah, it is. Barry Fitzgerald from Ghost Hunters International. Yeah.
Get things right sometimes. I certainly do. So, introduce this, Steve. We've got about 15 minutes to chat about it, and I know that won't give it justice, but let's talk about this piece in particular.
Well, how this came about was because I've been involved in numerous things like this before. You remember that case that we looked at regarding the Montauk monster that washed up on the beach?
Oh, yeah.
Turned out to be a raccoon, remember?
A bloated, hairless raccoon.
That's the one, you remember. And, well, it kind of came from that, believe it or not. I was asked to officially investigate on behalf of, what was it now, the Inkari Institute, officially investigate these discoveries of an alleged, what people will call alien mummies, of all things. And you can well imagine my skepticism, you know. But the thing is, it had reached international news all over the world, in every country. It was massive, unbeknown to me. But myself and Barry headed over on behalf of Inkari Institute to investigate the authenticity of these strange creatures that had apparently been discovered allegedly in Nazca in a cave and brought forward. And they've been said that they were real at one time. There was evidence to support that these things are real. And the main attraction being Maria, which was a full-size humanoid with 3 very long fingers and 3 very long toes, and very peculiar. So, of course, I headed over there to conduct an investigation. Now, the first thing I realised when I got to Peru was, it's almost 15,000 feet above sea level, is that when I got off the plane, it was just sick, nauseous sickness, you know, and it's because of the altitude. It's altitude sickness, actually. And it's difficult to breathe a little bit, to be honest, you know, and each morning, I remember us getting up in the morning, myself and Barry, and first thing we do is just throw up. because it was just kept with us all the time during the investigation. It was very, very hard. If people aren't used to that climate, then it's very difficult. It's something that you got to get used to over a period of time. But it's an incredible country, though that there is areas with so much poverty, which is a shame. And this is why so many ancient graveyards are being pillaged illegally and items being sold. I mean, what they'll end up doing is probably ending up on private sales, or even on Lima Market, in the heart of Peru. They end up on there being sold. It's just the country is losing its antiquity. It's being sold left, right, and centre, and it's an absolute heartbreaking thing to see. But the government can't deal with it. There's that much stuff going on the black market. Now, I got involved and I went up there, and I was told, we were both told very secretively, we had to jump in this car, which took us up to the mountains, which is even higher, around about 19,000 feet, and to go into this old. God knows where we were. We have no idea where we were. They wanted us to blindfold us originally. We're not doing that. Anyway, we talked ourselves out of that. Ended up at some type of warehouse, and we got in there, and we were shown these bodies, and I had to do a full examination on them. So you'll see photos of me with gloves and gowns and stuff on, and conducting a thorough investigation of these bodies. Now, the first thing that they brought out was a small one about so big, and it was clearly fake. It had a fish's head on. And you know me, Dave, you know what I'm like. I said, well, that's fake. It's got a fish's head on. And these dodgy guys looked at each other and went, okay, and kind of just said nothing and put it away. And then started reeling out these guys. And there was about 6 of these guys, I believe. Mostly the same, a couple of variants. And we conducted analysis on these, and it turned out they were fake as well. Using skulls of dogs, canine skulls. This was first identified. We brought Mark Ollie in. You know Mark, don't you?
Yeah, guest a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we worked with Mark Ollie. Mark's helped us on this case, and we presented him the information about the skulls and stuff for identification and that sort of thing. And you know what? He's a wealth of information, that guy. And we really couldn't have do the identification without him. He was absolutely brilliant and spot on. He was absolutely spot on as well, because later on it was confirmed he was right. They'd used parts of different animals to make these, and they were being put together by taxidermists and being passed out as aliens. Some small ancient aliens. And these guys, as you can see on the table there, they're only, a meter long at most. But when you x-ray them, they had no ball joints. These poor buggers wouldn't have been able to move around at all. And it was just ridiculous. So they took them away, and then out came the golden nugget, which was Maria. And that was a whole different ball game. We looked at Maria and we got stumped, because we're looking at a real humanoid. This is a real humanoid along with a baby by a young one. And they are real, but when we started to analyze them, and it took a long time, we ended up in Sri Lanka and working with a university there, which did the analysis for us. And turned out that she is real humanoid, and she's ancient, very ancient, but she's been doctored. It was found that the fingers had been manipulated, cut. 2 of them had been cut off, thumb and finger, leaving 3 long fingers. Bones had been added together to make the length of the finger. And the same happened with the toes as well. They'd even messed around with the eye sockets to widen the eye sockets and make it look like she was more alien. Though she did have some slight elongation in the skull, but that's nothing unusual for Peru. And covered in this white dementia-type earth. Is a white compound, which made it extremely, extremely difficult to identify areas of being doctored, such as the ears cut off, an example, because she was covered in all this. People thought it was plaster of Paris at one time, but it wasn't. It was actually some type of. It's a certain type of earth compound where she was located, and Damia's Earth is a real thing. Now, under analysis, when you start to look at the body, you can see, yes, she's humanoid and she's been doctored. The bones in the fingers are from different humanoids. Now, the only way to do that, to know that, was to take samples from different parts of the finger. And when we did, we found out, well, the DNA in that doesn't match the DNA in that. So we knew that had come from another person and that this thing had been manufactured. Well, that is when it got, because we ended up back there a couple of times in Peru, and this is when it started getting really dodgy, because we ended up in the middle of a black market ring. One where we're talking, Maria was on sale for just over $1 million. And this is the sort of money that was involved. And we started battling the people who manufactured these. And the Inkari Institute, I believe, were in on it. It's my belief they were in on it. And they needed some rectification. So basically, they called us in to try and, fool us. If they get the nod from us that it's authentic, that's going to go well for them. But that didn't quite work out for them, you see. So we ended up being literally hunted down by the Vaqueros, which are these bandits, and they carry guns, and they were threatening our lives. And it started getting very, very dangerous. So we ended up going over to the government, and we were with government people, interviewed, and they were in the hunt for these things because they were losing on the antiquity, and they knew there was a scam going on, but it was more about the antiquity, being sold black market. It was illegal, and there was a massive hunt for them because they'd relocate these bodies all over different places. And the whole story about where they found was all fake. Every part of the story was fake. And just to try and get these, some items were already sold on the black market for thousands of pounds, but the biggest one was Maria, just over $1 million. And they were hunting it left, right, and centre. And we got caught up right in the middle of it all. And it was a bit hair-raising. It was a bit scary. We had to do a lot of covert things, having to swap hotels, take different routes, and all sorts of different things, because they put out literally a death threat on us. They were going to kill us. They would have done. I'm sure they would have took us up to the desert. Nobody goes up there. You'd never find us. And because we followed the plan. And they weren't best pleased with it, because it wasn't just Maria it was on the production line. There were others to come. So we got involved in all that, and it was a bit. But we did our job. We stuck to our guns. We said, it's fake. We can prove it's fake. And we have 3 independent university departments of anthropology which will confirm our findings that these things are fake and demonstrate how, if you want to take notice of the findings. And yet, even now, so long, what were we talking, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
We are still seeing these turn up, saying all these ancient aliens and this and the other. I mean, she's been taken out. The government did get hold of them, and we filled the plan. And she's actually in a museum in Ico, in Peru, just as an ancient find. Nothing unusual apart from the fact that she had been purposely doctored by people who discovered her. But there was a racket was involved, and a lot of people involved, and that racket even introduced people at high authorities, which were in on it as well at government level, and it was just crazy. And looking back, I probably wouldn't have taken that case on, not knowing what I know now. One thing is for sure, can't go back to South America anytime soon. But it was just our job. We were just doing our job, and we will always stick to our guns. If something's fake, we'll tell it's fake, and we'll show it's fake. And at first when I saw Maria, I was taken back. Don't get me wrong, it's very unusual, but it was a very clever job done, and we used professional taxidermists to do it.
And let's face it, Steve, if you hadn't actually been involved, you wouldn't have been involved. You wouldn't have been to Peru. You wouldn't have seen it. You wouldn't have had the experience.
No, true. It's all a learning experience, but when you have that feeling when you're sat in a car with 3 people who've got guns, and that they're not happy with you, and it is worrying because these guys, these are criminals, big criminals up there. You know, there was a time when we were worried, we were panicking, and we would do. So what we did is, whilst we were there, we did a purpose 3 updates a day over live Facebook or whatever, just to let people know we're still alive, we're still doing it. You know, but it got a bit hair raising at time. I enjoyed it. It was certainly educational. But we've done 2 videos. The first video is Alien Mummies, which was the first part. And it was all about the learning and going and finding out. But the second part, the second part really hammers it home about what's going on up there. And it's heartbreaking because they're digging up graves of children, of adults. They're pulling bones apart and they're building things. And it's just absolutely heartbreaking. And you'll see, if you ever see the video, you know, actually, I did break down it. I was, you know, it was very upsetting to see and hear that. And just to see that this country's being pillaged like this in this way is terrible. I mean, it's happened in many other countries, but not to. They actually say that we can't stop it. We cannot. It's so, the criminal rings are so big, and it's so much of it we can't control it. You know, and it's a shame. But But you know what? It was I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot. You know, about the how far people will go when they're reaching poverty. They'll go to any extremes. And I understand the economical situation of Peru is terrible, and the government really needs to do something better, to be honest.
Well, I certainly think one of the viewers tonight, History with Kaylee YouTube, I know she's going to watch back, but I would more or less suggest that she's going to contact you as well. History with Kaylee, she does videos about worldwide archaeological sites and things like this of what her research and her belief. So I'm sure she'll want to speak to you a little bit more about this in the near future and probably create something pointing all this out herself. Right. Also, by the way, History with Kaylee Durin and Tony Kaywood, they've recently joined us as Team ArkMD Mag. So they will be... Tony's already been putting some posts out, what have you, on the different places that the social media. He'll also be writing some articles for the magazine. We'll be sharing all his videos, as we will with Kaylee, and hopefully Kaylee's going to come and do some writing for us as well in the near future. So we can't wait to get going properly with Kaylee and with Tony. She said she loved that. Dave, can you help me get in contact with Steve? Of course I can. We'll do that tomorrow. No problem whatsoever.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. I mean, I've heard the story before, Steve. We've spoke about it privately. We've spoke about it publicly on the show previously. What do you think, Adrian? Or have you got any questions?
Just feel like I'm sitting in the pub listening to someone talk to me about something I'm interested in. So sorry if I've been quiet. I've just enjoyed it tonight, just sitting there like, And it's a shame because there's so much more, like Rendlesham Forest. We wanted to talk about, didn't we, Dave?
Well, you know, I mean, I've talked so much about Rendlesham Forest. To the point where I don't normally talk about Rendlesham Forest because there's been so much discussions about it. Well, you know, I always say the same thing to everybody when they talk about Rendlesham Forest. I said, forget the incident of 1980. What has happened is happened. There's no new raw data that's going to come out from this. And I thought very long time ago that it's raw data you need when investigating stuff. But what interests me is that location is renowned for UFO and paranormal activity a long time before 1980. What's interesting is some little towns around them are called like Elben and, you know, and places associated to gentry encounters, because hundreds of years ago, the whole area was renowned for small cryptid creatures and fairies and, you know, strange things like that. So it's one of those locations where strange stuff happens.
And Dad's Army was filmed there as well.
and of course, Sutton Hoo. That's not far away at all.
Kaylee's video is really good on that. Kaylee's video, everyone should watch it. Well done, Kaylee.
Absolutely.
It shows all the bits which Netflix missed, I felt. So,
so if you don't go looking for it, History with Kaylee, you can find it on the ArkMD Mag. If you look for, just put Kaylee in the search engine and it's on there as well. She automatically gets the hits. But go and subscribe to History of Kaylee anyway. She makes some damn good videos. Look at her. She's saying thank you. Don't be thanking. It's what we do.
Steve, where can people learn more about your work, more about what you do, the magazine, Zohar Entertainment, etc., etc.?
Well, Zohar, are probably best known for their YouTube work and dedicated subject channels on UFOs or ancient mysteries. UMN TV is one of the main ones. We also have Zohar Stargate TV, Zohar Hidden from the Public. There's a number of them on YouTube. All you've got to do is search them out. But if you want to learn more about that, you can go to zoharstargate.com website. They'll tell you a little bit of different things that we're involved in. If it's the magazine side, it's phenomenamagazine.co.uk. About the magazine, it's free. Just download it every month. Also, all the back issues are free as well. So some of the really old
all the way back to
articles from Dave actually were in there as well. So.
Well, to be honest, Steve, I've save rewriting stuff. I've actually ripped my old articles from number 1 to 32 and they're published on the website, updated, of course.
Excellent. Very good.
As are several of yours as well. The Dead Sea Scrolls, I think, republishes in a couple of days. So we've got all sorts.
Right.
There's the Phenomena Magazine website. And as Steve said, what languages? I know Spanish is one of the other languages. What languages other, Steve?
Yeah, because it's in 4 languages. It's in Spanish, it's in Russian, it's in Japanese, and it's in German.
So there you go. Any viewers tonight?
Well, what's interesting is that if you have someone who would like to obtain the Spanish magazine, it isn't a rehash of the English one. They actually are independent. I actually own a business in Spain which runs Phenomena Magazine Spain, and its own editors and stuff. So it kind of, they're all different. They're all they're not all the same.
And that originally started as a journal for scientific study of the paranormal, and was available to a few of our friends. And look at it now.
It wasn't it? We was just in-house magazine for us, and now look at it. It's the biggest subject related design in the world.
Yeah,
and growing still. And it's just incredible how that happens. But maybe because of the 4-letter word, and that's free.
Yeah. But it never used to, Steve. I mean, the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine is free, but some days we don't have many hits whatsoever. Some days we have a lot of hits. Over the course of a month, we can have some phenomenal. I think it was 3 years ago. Luke can't confirm that. 3 years ago, over a year period, we had 350,000 hits on the website. It dropped off a little bit because the website unfortunately got deleted, but we're building it back up now with obviously the apps for the iOS and the Android. So we'll get back up there anyway.
Well, there's plenty of things there, Dave. Phenomena Magazine, there's Zohar Stargate TV. If you want to find out personally about me, stevemera.com. I've got details on there. If it's about our events, then we have Awakenings Expo in Manchester. We do cruises when permitted, of course. And of course, if you want to find out more about the Blackpool event, then you can go to Media Invest Entertainment for that.
Fantastic. Well, Adrian, it's been a great show. Something totally different to where we usually look at, but it's been fascinating nonetheless, hasn't it?
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Steve. Appreciate it.
No, welcome. Fantastic. Just let me know if you want me to come back. I'd be pleased to do so.
Well, I've never heard Adrian so quiet, so there's a start. He's the technical one between us. You know what it's like, what I'm like when it comes to technical malarkey. So he generally concentrates on the technical side of stuff more than I do. So if we got on next week, Bart, let me just have a look on next week because I'm sure he'll be back to asking technical questions. Is it Skyborn? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can I ask Steve just a quick question? I understand you used to work in Essex for NATO.
They did.
And there, I don't know whereabouts in Essex you were, but there used to be a lot of UFO reports in the 80s and 90s, and now suddenly it's hugely dropped off.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of the rest of the country is the same. Is it? Do you know? Obviously, why?
I know some bits. I mean, when I was just all I was at the time was I was contracted to NATO as a contractor on telecommunications, and we were just putting telecommunications in. But for a short period of time, we worked on a couple of things which was a project involving Marconi and NATO, which was interesting stuff. And we still not see that technology. Yeah,
I live near the building that. Yeah. Without going into too much detail, but we also have to take into consideration, there were a lot of places which were part and parcel of manufacturing certain aircraft parts. Dave might know some of this, and even test flying things. They say we don't test them over here; we fly them to America and test them. Do you remember, Dave?
Yeah.
No. There was a lot of things that have been test flown, and a lot of misidentifications. But then, when you've got locations like that, or flying test vehicles around, it also causes, them are also interested occasionally, which pop up. But just because we don't hear the reporting of the UFO phenomena and the UFO phenomena are two separate things, and because one can be manipulated, the reporting of. And sometimes you think, well, there's less reports, there's less phenomena. That's not always the case. Sometimes there's lots of things going on, but today, the way it is, it's very difficult. We rely on places like YouTube now to get our information.
Can I just throw a ball in the court there, Adrian? As well as that, we've monitored trends a lot in the past. So, for instance, when a film about Bigfoot has come out, there's been more Bigfoot sightings in the USA. When the X-Files came on, more people saw things because more people, it was about belief. Additionally to that, during lockdown, there was a massive trend of UFO sightings last year in the first lockdown because there was no planes in the sky. So people were noticing things differently. They were more aware because they couldn't go anywhere. They sat in the garden. They were seeing things in the sky automatically. There's no airplanes in the sky. There were a hell of a lot of reports last year. And unfortunately, as Steve will attest as well, you've seen me the past couple of weeks, the video that's going to end the show momentarily. It took me a good bit of time, but I've been able to create a half-decent video. People who are better than me are creating fantastic videos of UFOs, of the paranormal, of ghosts, of Sasquatch, of cryptids, and it's all there on YouTube. And the amount of them that have come when technology first started being able to do that, we were confused. What is it? But now it's that simple to create a UFO on video. So I'm glad I got out of it.
Yeah, it's not got easier, Dave.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you all for viewing tonight. As I say, it's been a little bit different. Thanks to Steve and to Adrian. Thank you to all of you for watching, and obviously to Luke for his fantastic producing. So without further ado, we will end the show with this week's Reader's Finds. Thanks again, Steve. I will speak to you all shortly. Don't forget to stay on for this. Luke, play VT. Good night, everyone.
President Donald Trump says he's heard some interesting things about Roswell, but he's not sharing what. The president made the comments yesterday in a Father's Day themed interview with his son. Donald Trump Jr. jokingly asked his father if he would ever declassify information about the alien town and what he knows. President Trump responded saying, "I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it is very interesting."
You got to go and dig those holes.
Man, I'm tired.
With broken hands and withered souls, emancipated from all you know. You got to go and dig those holes.
Man, you slow, bro. Beats, man. Oh, that's what we're doing. We're singing. Y'all know nothing about that. Watch me. Watch me. Come on, Ed. Come on, Ed. Prove yourself.
Take it on, dig it. Dig it on. Take it on, dig it. Dig it on.
Two suits, two tokens in hand. I got no respect cause I'm the new man. Got my shovel, shoes full of sand. Check out the tag, the name is Caveman.
Take it on, dig it. Dig it on. Take it on, dig it. Dig it on.
Take a bad boy,
make them dig 5 feet. The dirt in these shovels will give us a beat. Okay, you gotta find something never found before. If not, we'll just have to dig some more. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Dig it up, dig it. Dig it up, dig it up, dig it. Dig it up, dig it up, dig it. Dig it up, dig it up, dig it. Dig it up,
Your hands may blister, your muscles stay sore. You wanna break, knock on the warden's door.
dig it up, dig it. Dig it up, dig it up, dig it. Dig it up,
A-R-M-P-I to the T. What is that? You smelling, dog? That's me. I don't take showers and I don't brush my teeth. That's all I do is dig holes, eat, and sleep.
There is no lake, there is no shade, there is no place to hide. So just sit and wait to fry.
You got to go